presentation is on women in Japan, and we're connecting it obviously to literally the woman in the dunes. Not just, yeah. Okay, so. Okay, so many people who visit Japan observe that it's kind of like a male-dominated society. And some examples of the male dominance come when, in Japan it's traditional, it's custom that men enter a room first and are served first, and women are oftentimes just completely ignored by men, seen as like servants almost, I guess. When a Japanese woman gets married, she takes over the domestic role for her new family. So she goes into the family and she does all the home cooking and all the, like, basically domestic chores. That's a picture of a traditional Japanese family. Okay. It is traditional in the Japanese society for women to put the well-being of the husband and the family before themselves. And it's their job, they see it as their job to take care of their family and the domestic needs, basically. And in Japan, motherhood is regarded as a patriotic duty to the Japanese Empire, so it's obviously a very important part of their culture. And but yeah, yes. Okay. So women in the workplace. Oftentimes, women in rural God, I cannot say that word. Rural Japanese communities don't share the same rights or the same status as their husbands. And their primary role is to they're just expected to serve their families as workers, but they don't get any compensation for their work. So it's like doing a job without being paid. And when women do work in the workplace, they're given temporary roles, and this opinion of women that they don't really have a place in the workplace in Japan is definitely hinders their opportunity to advance in their career. Okay, so obviously, like I said before, Japanese society has somewhat of a chauvinistic attitude towards women, and here's a picture of all these businessmen going to work, and you see that there's no women on that train. And then traditionally in Japan, women have been assigned to non-leadership roles. So when they can even get a job in the workplace, they take on roles that don't really have much responsibility. So on. Okay. However, in today's modern society, the roles of women are definitely changing. And due to the economic downturn in Japan, more women are entering the workforce to better support their family, because now it's not enough for just the husband to be working, so a lot more women are entering the workplace. And because of that, the previously male-dominated workplace is now becoming slowly but surely more gender non-biased. Sorry. Okay. And then, while women are gaining respect in the workplace, they're also finding more of a voice within their domestic life. So this changing role of women is not just within their careers, but also within their homes. And they're just gaining more respect as a part of Japanese society. So I have some quotes, and they're just, obviously the woman in the Dunes takes care of Nikki. We definitely see that domestic role. For example, on page 28, right when Nikki it's like the beginning of his stay in the hole, she says, the book says, when she returned, she silently began to prepare the bed in the corner of the room. If she put his bed here, where in heaven's name did she intend to sleep? So this shows how the traditional ways of the woman putting the importance of her guest or her husband or whoever's staying in her house before herself, because it appears that she's not going to have a bed, but we find out later she does. And then on page 78, you see Nikki reflects the male part of society, and he says, the narration says, he would sleep soundly during the night while the woman was working and Conversely, during the day, when she had to rest, he would disturb her sleep by exaggerating complaints of pain. So that's when he's starting his plan to escape kind of thing. And that just shows how oftentimes men in traditional Japanese society take for granted the role of the women as they perceive it to be, just the domestic servant, basically. So that is the changing role of women.
Okay, now kind of to move backwards from women becoming really respected in society, I'm going to talk about comfort women. And basically, they were girls that were forced to be sex slaves for the military by the Japanese government. So, like, what would happen to them is they would start off their day and they would wake up, and for like 8 hours, like, a man would come in, like, they would, and like rape them basically. And in Woman in the Dunes, we kind of see how Nikki, most of the time, well, in the beginning, he looks at the woman as kind of a sex object rather than an actual person. And the book, Japan's Comfort Women, kind of explains like what happened to these girls and what they went through. And basically, if they didn't follow the rules or if they became pregnant, they would disregard them completely. And at the time, women didn't have any way to get jobs and everything, so they were just kind of like done, basically. Then we move into geishas, and these were kind of, most people look at them as prostitutes, but now they're more like skilled women in like arts and like actual art, and then other arts, I guess. So basically, some of the girls were sold, but as they kind of evolved, it became more of like a paid profession. And so before, like the older women were more like they helped their clients, but the young girls would like stay up and wait for the people to come, and a lot of times they had to stay up really, really late. As late as like 2 or 3 in the morning to clean up and everything. So, if we look in Women in the Dunes, Nikki kind of just, when he thinks about the women, there's a part that says, yet the average woman was firmly convinced, it seemed, that she could not make a man recognize her worth unless every time she opened her legs she did so as if it were some scene in a soap opera. But this is very pathetic. And before he kind of starts to love her, we see again how she's just kind of like this thing that he can have at his disposal anytime he wants, basically. And there's another quote that talks about spiritual rape and how, like, for a woman, it's easy for her to be the victim, and he realizes that he could hurt himself spiritually by, like, raping this woman later on. And he realizes that it's like not even worth it for him, and he doesn't really think of the woman. And then at the very end, Nikki really, really wants to get out, and the men in the village are basically like, "We'll let you out if we can watch you." And he says, "I really want to get out, I really do." And he says to the woman, "You mustn't take it so seriously." But I mean, if someone's gonna basically watch you get raped, you're not going to be like, yeah. So, that is all.
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of discuss Japanese society in general, mostly towards women, but this is back during World War II and the time when the Women in Dunes was written. Japanese society has been largely influenced by Confucianism. And this is just a philosophy which is based on humanism, or the belief that people are improvable. Other influences include Buddhism and samurai. And in accordance with Confucianist beliefs, the group or community will always be more important than the individual needs. So therefore, people tend to examine their personal achievements based on the overall group success. So So a Japanese woman once stated, "The weight of trying to reconcile individual achievement